I'm Jennifer Arruda, and I'm here to talk to you today about reversing autoimmune disease, and specifically in your kitchen, how you can do it with simple ingredients that you have at home, how you can heal yourself with the foods that you eat. And you can find more information on my husband and my website, reverseautoimmune.com. Today, I'm going to show you an easy, simple, filling meal that you will just absolutely love. And we make this every week or every 2 weeks. It's so easy and it's so filling and delicious. It's going to be red lentils, and I like to call it Esau's red lentils because these lentils are going to be so tasty and delicious that someone like Esau would sell his birthright to get some. So I'm going to get the lentils going. We have a heated burner here. Now these lentils, you can see they have been soaked. I've soaked them overnight or for 8 hours, and then I just drain them and rinse them really well. And you'll notice there's a lot of soapiness that come off of the red lentils, especially. Different grains and beans have different amounts of saponins, lectins, phytates in them that inhibit the nutrients from being released. Red lentils seem to have a lot of saponins because they end up being very soapy, and you'll notice that. I'm just adding enough water now to just barely cover them so that they can start cooking. We'll just make sure they're off the bottom, and we will start cooking the red lentils. And so something that is very important for autoimmune sufferers is to soak your beans, your lentils, any grains, any nuts, any seeds, pretty much anything that can grow. When you put it in water, it will sprout and grow something that would be technically a seed. And so you want to soak those overnight or for 8 hours and then drain them and then rinse them very well, maybe several times. And I just use a colander if you're going to do something like a larger bean like garbanzos or pinto beans, but for something really small, like these red lentils are very small red lentil, I used a strainer like this. And this is what I use for, quinoa and buckwheat and other grains that need to be soaked. So you just drain them and rinse them very well until the water is no longer soapy. You want to get rid of those saponins, lectins, and phytates because those are protecting the seed from sprouting just anywhere. But they also protect the seed from releasing its nutrients, which we want. In fact, 40 to 80% of the nutrients can be locked in to the seed, the grain, the nut, the bean. And so you want to release that by soaking it. And also, these saponins, these lactates, these phytates, they can bind with the lining of your small intestine, which then creates leaky gut, or it can advance a leaky gut, or if you already have leaky gut, it will perpetuate the leaky gut. And so people who suffer with autoimmune diseases experience great results when they are careful to soak their beans, nuts, seeds, grains, etc. You might not need to do this if you are in great health and you don't have a damaged gut, but it is good for everyone to do to really get those nutrients. So it doesn't take that much more time, just a little more planning. So perhaps if you know you're going to make beans the next day or something with a seed or grain, then you just soak them the night before. You put them in a big bowl or pot and fill it with water, and you're going to want a good 2 to 3 inches of water over them because they really grow, they expand as they're soaking. And then just drain them the next day, rinse them, and then use them as you would. But when you're using a recipe that requires adding the water, just know that because they've absorbed a lot of water, they're not going to use as much water. And so for something like this, I just put the water to barely above the lentils. So we're getting those cooking. Now we're going to add several essential ingredients for really any bean or legume, I personally think. And I'm going to give you a general recipe for cooking amazing beans, lentils, garbanzos. I'm going to give you a general recipe that you can follow. Of course, I'll have a specific one here, but I'm going to give you some basics where you can take any bean, any lentil, any legume, and make an amazing stew or pottage, as Esau had. So I'm going to add 1 onion. This is a large onion. I like lots of onion. I'm just going to add that chopped onion. And you want to get your onion in, your garlic in from the beginning so that it can really get the flavors absorbed. So that's 1 onion there. And then we have 3 cloves of garlic. You can mince them or chop them. It doesn't really matter when you're cooking them because they get nice and soft and tender anyways. The flavor disperses, so I just chopped these. So this is 3 cloves of garlic, and this was I started with 3 cups of dried lentils. So a basic rule is if you're going to do, say, 3 cups of a bean or legume, lentil, then it's roughly 1 onion. You can do a medium or large depending on what you prefer. And it's 1 clove of garlic per cup of dried legume. So 3 cups of dried lentils, we're going to do 3 cloves of garlic. And I do large cloves because I love garlic. Onion and garlic are very, very good for you. They're antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. And they also are called prebiotics, which means they feed your good bacteria. So when you can include garlic and onion with your meal, you are really helping your gut bacteria, and you want to improve how many good bacteria you have. You want to feed them. So also, something that I normally do at the end with most beans, but red lentils are different, is add the salt. You usually want to wait until the end to add salt to your beans or lentils, but with red lentils, they cook very fast. If you soak them, they only take about 15 minutes to cook, so they're very easy, and they cook fast, and so I'll add the salt in now. But if you do this with, say, a pinto bean, it will be firm, or maybe the brown or green lentils, it will be firm, and so you want to wait until the end to add the salt, or at least 20 minutes or so before you're actually going to eat them, so that it marinates, but they've already been cooked. So I'm going to add this now because the red lentils, it's fine for that. So that was 1 tablespoon of salt, and that's another basic rule is for the salt, I usually do 1 teaspoon of salt per cup of dried bean or legume or lentil. So that was 3 teaspoons, that's 1 tablespoon. 3 cups of dried beans, 3 teaspoons, which is 1 tablespoon of salt. So we're going to mix that in, and now we'll move on to our seasonings. Now with these, I'm going to do ginger. I don't normally do that with just plain beans, but we're going to do these red lentils in sort of an Indian flavor, a mild Indian flavor. And so I'm going to do ginger. That's a huge key. Now ginger is very anti-inflammatory, which is good for leaky gut, because when you have toxins coming in, your body's recognizing them as toxins, it attacks them, it also attacks the lining of the small intestine. Your small intestine gets damaged, and then you have particles leaking out through your whole body, and then that's where you end up with autoimmune diseases of the various kinds. If you have celiac, that might be attacking your skin. If you have Crohn's disease, it's attacking your large and small intestine. If you have like my husband has autoimmune hepatitis, liver cirrhosis is attacking the liver. And so all of these toxins are floating around, going to the different parts of your body, and your body is recognizing them as foreigners, and it's attacking. And so that's when you have that inflammation across different parts of your body, and that's autoimmune. But with every autoimmune, you have inflammation in your small intestine. And so ginger, turmeric, these things are very anti-inflammatory to calm and heal the small intestine. And so this is great for autoimmune. So I'm just going to chop the ginger in small pieces. And we'll just mince it. And you don't have to go to chef school to make good things in the kitchen. I don't really consider myself a very good chopper. My husband does a lot of the chopping. He's my sous chef. But I don't consider myself a very great chopper, but that's okay. You can still make great tasting food in the kitchen. So don't feel like you have to go to a school. Just use good ingredients, whole plant food ingredients, and ask God to help you and bless you. And be open to try new things, new flavors, new ingredients. I think you'll find some things you really enjoy. Okay, we want to get this ginger in early on too, because the ginger will need time to cook and it will really marinate and make a nice flavor. So I'm just getting the ginger in here. Okay, so we have our garlic, onion, ginger, and salt, and these are boiling. Okay, now we're going to get in our flavors. So what we have here, besides the ginger, was just your basic recipe for beans, legumes, lentils. Your bean and legume soaked, your onion, your garlic, and then your salt. And remember, you want to wait to add the salt for other beans. Red lentils and garbanzos, add it before though. Now, what herbs and spices you choose is going to determine what genre of flavor you have. And so for Mexican, that would be oregano and cumin are your main spices or herbs. And for Indian, you've got cumin, coriander, turmeric, and paprika. Paprika goes with a lot of things too. I add that to Mexican as well. So let me turn this down now that it's going quite well. Turn it down to medium. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon of each of these. So we have cumin. That smells so good. Cumin is a crossover. You can use that with Indian and with Mexican. And we have coriander, a teaspoon of that. Then we have turmeric. Remember, turmeric is one of those anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer ingredients. It's very bright yellow, bright orange yellow. So any excuse you can find to use more turmeric, the better. And then paprika. And we try to get organic paprika because the paprika comes from peppers, and peppers are one of the top items on the Dirty Dozen list. What is the Dirty Dozen list? That is a list that the environmental working group, I think, puts out every year, where they analyze the fruits and vegetables, and they will list which are the top 12 Dirty Dozen. That would be the top 12 items that are most heavily contaminated with pesticides and herbicides. And so peppers, bell peppers are on the top of that, one of the top of that list. Apples, strawberries, bell peppers, celery, things like that are on the top of the list. And so especially those things that are on the Dirty Dozen and anything that is GMO, we always make sure to get organic to try to minimize that toxic load. So we're just going to cover that and let it cook for a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We have some more ingredients that we're going to add. I don't want them to cook too long because it's nice for them to not be overcooked. So we'll add them not at the very end, but after the lentils have had a chance to soften and cook nice. So we have here, this is Swiss chard. Swiss chard. Now, Swiss chard is one of those items that is on the top of the Andy scale. And the Andy scale, someone made a scale called the Aggregate Nutritional Density Index. And basically that means they've taken the vitamin, mineral, nutrient content for every fruit and vegetable, nut, bean, and they have analyzed it to see what has the most. And You have your fruits at, say, 200, your berries 300, so those are at the top of your fruits. But then you have things like spinach, and that's at a 500. That's really good. You've got a lot of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients there. And then when you get into the 700s, you have bok choy, things like that. But do you know what is at the top of the Andy scale? At 1,000 is where you have your Swiss chard, your kale, your collard greens. Those are all at 1,000. So when you're trying to get vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, I would advise not to get them in a pill where they might be from a synthetic source. You want them from whole plant foods. And aren't these so beautiful? Look at that bright green color. It's so beautiful. You have the red of the tomatoes. God just put the vitamins in tasty, delicious packages for us to enjoy. He's so good to us. And I think the closer we get back to how he designed things in the natural packaging, I think the safer we're going to be. So we have the greens. And you know, as we've talked about eating plant-based foods, plant-based diet, one of the things that we've talked about avoiding is dairy. That would be milk, cheese, sour cream, ice cream, those kinds of things made with dairy. Well, sometimes people wonder, well, what about my calcium? Where am I going to get my calcium? Well, did you know that 1 cup of cooked collard greens has more calcium in it than 1 cup of milk? It has 360 milligrams of calcium, and milk only has 300. So when you're eating your greens, you're getting more calcium than you are when you're eating animal products and dairy products. And truth be told, the whole milk does a body good is actually a great big lie. And yes, I believed that my whole life. I would drink milk by the glass just as a supplement, thinking, oh, I'm making strong, healthy bones. Well, come to find out, animal products, including dairy, cheese, eggs, they're so high in animal protein, which is very acidic, that it actually leaches calcium out of your bones. And osteoporosis is not a disease of lack of calcium in the diet. It's actually a disease of calcium depletion from your bones, which is caused by the excess acid from meat, dairy, these kind of things, the animal protein. And so when you're having milk, it doesn't do a body good. It's actually doing your body bad because it's depleting your bones of calcium. And that's why you find countries that are the highest in milk and dairy consumers are the highest in osteoporosis. In fact, they did a study, 12-year study, studying 78,000 women. This was a study done at Harvard. And they found that women who drank milk 3 times a day broke way more bones than women who did not drink the milk. And so the proof is there. If you're having dairy products, you're hurting your body, you're hurting your bones. But this is where you can get your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, including your calcium. So we're going to chop this up. This is about ½ a pound. It's 1 bunch of Swiss chard. And I like to vary my greens between kale and collard greens, spinach, Swiss chard. And whenever I make a bean or a legume, lentil, anything like that, it's a really good excuse to add a green to it. They just go so well. And so I'm just going to chop this up. Okay, I have nice greens there. Okay, so we're going to go back and check on our lentils, and ooh, they're looking so good. They're nice and soft, you can see, and the colors of the turmeric and the paprika are really coming out there. So we're going to start adding our last ingredients here. Beans, lentils, any legumes are a great source of protein. And as a plant-based having a plant-based diet, this would be a great source of your protein and a main source of your meals. So my husband and I, we make beans, lentils numerous times a week. This is our staple. And so when you soak them, of course, you're helping them to become easier to digest. And you're also helping to get rid of some of the gaseous effects of eating beans and lentils. When you soak them and you get rid of that drain water, then you're actually making them so you're going to have less gas. People who aren't used to eating beans and lentils will notice that they do have a lot of gas at first, but you get used to them because the bacteria in your gut starts to become altered according to what you're eating. And so you'll be able to digest them easier and easier, perhaps. But if you don't have a good time with them, if your system doesn't take them well, just experiment with various other different kinds of plant foods. But we really enjoy these red lentils. They're easy to make. I'm putting in 2 cups of chopped tomatoes. And these give them a nice red color and add more nutrients. And then something to really enhance the flavor, something we've talked about is stimulating the taste buds with the different flavors. So I have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice here. So it's not going to be a really dominant flavor. You might not even notice it so much, but it's going to boost that flavor in the dish. So it's a teaspoon of lemon juice. And then we have our greens. Let me see, and I'll put the part with the stems. Some people cut out the stems of these things like kale and collard greens and such, but I like eating them because they have lots of nutrients in them. I don't like to waste any vitamins. So you'll notice with the greens, they'll really cook down. It looks like a lot right now, but when they cook down, it just shrinks quite a bit. So don't be afraid to put lots and lots of greens in your beans and lentils. If you think about a really healthy meal, you can think about it as beans and greens. Get your beans and greens. So kind of just get them tucked in a little bit. And we'll just let them simmer for a few more minutes. And so I'm cooking these on the stove right now because they're very quick and easy. The red lentils, especially after you soak them, only take 15 minutes or so. But I usually use my crock pot, and that's a way to save lots of time. You just put everything in. You don't have to do it even in this order. You can just put it all in and just let it go overnight. Now, of course, you want to know your crock pot. If it is a very hot one or not, you want to know how it goes before you leave it, before you go to bed. But you can just leave it overnight or leave it all day, and then you have it ready in the evening when you get home, or for lunch. And so that's a way to do this very easily, and especially if you do other beans and legumes that need more time, like say pinto beans or black beans. So let's check and see. You can see how the Swiss chard has gotten nice and bright green, and it's starting to get tender. So now we'll just really combine this. Doesn't that look good? This would be good on a cold winter afternoon especially, although we eat this all summer too. But this is just very warm and nourishing when it's a cold day outside. Now you can have this just as it is, or you can make yourself some steamed brown rice, or you can do some quinoa and serve it with that. All right, so this looks like it is ready. Of course, if you want the tomatoes and the greens done a little longer, just let it go a little more. But I think this is at a good place. So, to serve it, just put it in a bowl. And it's nice to have with some kind of fat. Now, of course, I recommend a whole fat. I don't recommend oils because they're 100% fat and they're very refined. But what's really nice is you could do some chopped avocado, or I really like a spoon of coconut milk. So this is how you can serve it, just with a spoon of coconut milk. There we go. And so just a little bit of fat drizzled on the top. You could also do that nice sesame parmesan sprinkled on the top. But this way you have your greens, your beans, a little fat, a little healthy fat. And this is just so warm and nourishing. I really enjoy this as a meal to have for your lunch, especially one where you're going to have a lot of food. You can get plenty of protein. Just 2 cups of cooked legume, lentils, beans, has plenty of protein in it. Even just 1 cup of cooked beans or legume has between 15 and 19 grams of protein in it. So you're able to get plenty of protein, plant-based protein, even if you're a bodybuilder or you want to become a bodybuilder, you want to go to the gym like my husband does, he is building muscle. You can build plenty of good muscle off of lentils and beans just like that. And I just want to remind everyone, we talked about before, but for every pound of muscle that you put on your body, it will burn 100 extra calories just sitting on your body. So that means, say that you are a 140-pound person and your normal caloric intake is 1,500 calories. Well, when you put an extra pound of muscle on your body through weightlifting, doing some kind of weightlifting exercise, and you eat good like this, then it will burn more and you can eat 1,500 more. So I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make lentils. May God bless you in your pursuit of health.